I'm a recent high school graduate. I'm a student at GCU. I'm on the leadership team at Monday Night Ministries. And most of all, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. And I work at Trader Joe's.
How did you get saved?
So I was saved when I was little. Always that classic, always growing up in a Christian home. You know, since I was little, I've been hearing about Jesus. I always went to church. I always went to Sunday school. It just looked a little different because I was in a different country. Grew up as a missionary, and so Jesus was always a present part of my life. I remember officially being saved, praying with my parents when I was probably around 6 years old. So it was a really cute little moment. But then there were definitely some parts of my life where I really felt like Jesus became real to me. And from then on, it was all in, this is I'm a believer. This is who I want to follow. So yeah, I was definitely not just there was one moment where I gave my life to Christ, but then obviously it's been an ongoing deepening and growing in my faith that has really just brought me closer to Jesus.
And how do you prioritize your relationship with God?
So my time with God, I like to spend in the mornings. I find that at night, if I'm right before bed, I'm okay, I'm gonna pray now, I end up falling asleep. And I do not want to fall asleep on God. Do not want to fall asleep on God. And so I like spending my mornings. I like getting up before, everybody else has gotten up, sitting outside, just starting my day off with quiet time at first. And so I'll start off with quiet time with the Lord, and I'll just start off with a few minutes of just being and prioritizing just being there. And so quietly just existing with God and just enjoying what's around me, His creation, just thinking about Him. I love thinking, and so thinking about Him. And then from then on, just spending time in the Word, spending time talking with Him, expressing my feelings, expressing how grateful I am for Him. Because in those moments where you actually take time to set apart, you realize how grateful you are and how big He is. That's kind of the start to prayers, learning to view yourself properly and to view God properly. And that's obviously a really hard thing to do. But once you get a closer grasp on that, prayer becomes easier. And so starting off with that and then leading into time talking to God and just being with our Father. So that's kind of morning times how I prioritize direct time, and then throughout the day, just as little things come up, remembering to pray about them and remembering to spend time with the Lord. So that's what I do.
How do you prioritize your relationship with your parents?
I have a really busy schedule between work 40 hours a week, and then Monday Night Ministries stuff, and then just extra stuff happening. And then my schedule is completely different than my dad's, and so I've really realized with the amount of time I'm not at home, I really realize my relationship with my parents is something that instead of just I'm at home and spending time with them, I have to put more effort in than usual. And so just between all the busyness, some hard conversations I've had to have, and I've failed as a son, and I've failed in certain areas of treating them well and spending time with them, getting caught up in work and school and all this stuff. And so learning to prioritize time with them. So in the mornings, that's with my mom because my dad's at work. And so I work closing shifts. And so in the mornings, when I wake up, having good conversation with my mom about what's happening in my life and what's going on in her life. And then my dad, over the weekends on Sundays when I don't work. Sundays are Sabbath, we take them off. My dad doesn't work, I don't work. And so that's time to kind of reconnect with my parents and make sure I'm prioritizing them, because ultimately, I love them and they do an amazing job at loving me.
Aww.
So
that's sweet. So wow, you find time and you're aware when you're not prioritizing. That's for a young man, that's amazing. Let's move to the A in R.A.D, which is artistry, athletics mastery. So let's start with the artistry mastery. What are your creative skills?
So creative skills, there's a few that I guess aren't traditional. I dabbled in music, I dabbled in little things, but I'm not a musician. I'm not. But I really love talking a lot, and so talking as an art has kind of it's something that I really like to work at. And then talking about concepts, and so I love spending time with people and even spending time with myself, growing just in knowledge and wisdom. And so I guess this is kind of a creative, I don't know. I just love talking with people. And so one of my favorite things to do is like staying up late. We get a campfire, we get all my friends there, or and then my dad will come out, or like we'll hang with one of my dad's friends and he'll just like talk, and we'll just talk about just issues in our lives and matters, and whether that's like theology, whether we got people going at each other with like, oh, I'm a Calvinist, I'm a whatever, like all that kind of stuff. Like I really enjoy that. And so I guess that falls more into just like people, just I love people skills, I love like interacting. And so I would say that that is probably where I lean more with like creative skills, is just like growing my own knowledge and growing my relationship with other people.
How do you grow in that? Is there any like mentors or books or internet like resources?
A whole lot of stuff. I've had a few mentors come into my life that I love spending time with. So I would say like first find like a wise old man in your community and connect with them and take that time, not necessarily even just to talk. I talk with a lot of mentors, I'm always talking, but listening with your mentors and just taking what they have to say and asking them questions. It's really important. And then there's like a lot of online videos that I love. A big one is Cliff Nettle. I'm a huge Cliff Nettle fan. I love like YouTube. You can literally look him up, ask Cliff, and he just goes to college campuses and he talks with young students. And his son hops on with them and they just talk. And so there's all these questions from like college age students, so like my age students, that they have, and it's fun to hear all the questions and all like the different things they're thinking about life and God and how it all works and how it all started. And Cliff does a really good job at coming at it in a loving but like true perspective, you know, that idea of like love and truth coming hand in hand. He does a good job. And so I love just like sitting down and listening to him and listening to them ask questions and him respond and see how he interacts with them. So that's a huge one.
The next one is athletic. So is basketball your favorite sport?
Yes.
Yes.
Played a lot of sports, but basketball was my favorite.
And so I assume that you're the best at basketball. Like you're great at basketball rather than the other sports.
I hope so.
Like,
I put a lot of effort into it.
Okay. Did you play in school?
Yeah, so I played competitively in high school only. And just because growing up in Nicaragua, it wasn't like, we didn't really have very many school teams. And so coming to the US, like my sophomore through senior year was like an awesome opportunity to get to play. And so, yes, I played in high school. I was the captain of my varsity team all 3 years. And it was awesome. It was a great opportunity for discipleship, great opportunity for, you know, just sharing the gospel with my teammates and other people. So it was awesome.
Are you in any leagues? Like besides school, did you play?
No. It was something that like I enjoyed, but I'm ready to move on from. And I feel like I have this calling in my life now that is that's just more important. And it's something that like I really enjoy and I'm like always gonna love. And I love just like, you know, playing with my dad and my brothers, and I'm excited for my brother. He's still in high school, so he's still gonna get to play. I still get to watch him, but I'm excited for this calling in my life that I kind of get to move on to. What position did I play? Yeah, so I played like super hybrid position. Like I kind of bounced around where they needed me. The big thing that like everyone kind of said was like I played like I was an old man. You know, it was just like always like I mean I was a guy who was like I wanted to do the dirty work. So I'd get the boards, I bounced around. So I played a lot bigger than I am because I'm not super tall, I'm not super big, but I would play more of a forward position. And it was a lot of fun. I loved it because I got to guard guys bigger than me, and it was just like, it was super fun. I enjoyed it.
And describe what you were great at.
I was probably best at just kind of getting to the hole as a slasher for sure. Just getting downhill and being able to make a play around the rim. And then definitely like the social side of basketball was like what I was really good at. And so like I talked on the court. I was a big talker. I said stuff at times that I shouldn't have said, but being honest, you know, but really like I love the social side, like getting in other people's heads and like that kind of deal. And so like I was a big talker for my team, and I kind of was a guy, like when we need someone to get like everybody going, like I knew what to say to get like my own teammates kind of mad and get them rolling. And so I just, I love the social side of basketball as well, for sure.
Jungman mentioned to me how you minister to people on the basketball court.
Yeah, so this was probably my favorite part of basketball this year, was we had a coaching change, and the coach that kind of came in kind of helped mentor me and my brother and a lot of my teammates, and he was just an awesome guy. And so we went not only from last year being like, we had like 7 wins and 15 losses, and this year we had like 22 wins and like 6 losses or something like that. And so not only flipping like our record around, also flipped the entire mentality of the program around. And so what was really cool is I got to be involved in Monday Night Ministries, which was my passion, and that kind of got to be a part of basketball as well. And so we would go within kind of our group, we would share our testimonies. And so we started off from the top down with we always say at Monday Night Ministries, vulnerability breeds vulnerability, and they did a great job this year of just living that out. And so we had our coaches at the top sharing their testimonies, sharing their failures, their mistakes, and just how Jesus has redeemed them. And then from there it moved down to the seniors, and then the juniors, and then the sophomores, and finally finish off the season with the freshmen. And so we would kind of do it for games sometimes, after practices, wherever we could fit it in. We would take time for everybody to share their testimony and share, this is what Jesus has done in my life. And so it was something that was like really integrated, and we would go to church together as a team. We would visit local churches, and then we'd do outings together. And so we were very Christ-centered as a group. I went to Big Valley Christian High School, and so it's in the name. And so he did a really good job at making our basketball team Christ-centered. And so when we'd play our games, that was like the mentality going into it, you know. We're going into this game Christ-centered, and then at halftime, we're going into the second half Christ-centered. After the game, we're going to do this Christ-centered. And so after every game, we would then ask the other team to like, hey, do you guys want to pray with us? And it's a lot easier to do when you're winning, but then we would also do it when we lost as well. And it really made a difference. It was cool. We played one team like 5 times that season. It was ridiculous. And so that last time we played them, we turned around to ask them, and they were already like grouping up with us, and they were like, this is our favorite part of playing you guys. And we had just beat them like 5 times. It was like by 50 points each time. But it was just cool because it was like, and then they prayed for us, and it was just an awesome opportunity. And so yeah, that was my favorite part of the year, was getting to play with teams or pray with teams after the games, and then also getting to share our testimonies with the team and like grow close together, go to church together, all that kind of stuff. So that was a cool ministry opportunity that was really changed the course of our like program, really how it's run.
Yeah, because not all the opposing teams were Christian schools, right?
Some weren't.
So it could be
public
Christians,
schools.
Non-Christians. Like you guys were still able to do it.
We didn't get rejected
like
once.
Public coach, or you never got rejected.
No, I always said yes, and it was super cool. Like win or lose, we always got a yes with it.
Well, that's amazing.
It was awesome.
Man. Now, whoever's listening, you should do that on your team as well. For other young basketball players that might need a little help to get better in basketball, is there any mentors, books, or internet that helped you become a better basketball player?
You can find online mentors. I worked with a guy for a little while when I was really like thinking about it as something that I wanted to do in college, before kind of Monday Night Ministries and before like this kind of calling God has put on my life. But there's a whole lot of stuff out there. You just got to look. And then a big one I would say is learning. The big difference really is learning confidence, especially in high school. Is like, if you can be a confident basketball player, that makes the complete difference. Because we had guys on our team that were better than me, and we had guys on our team that were worse than other guys, but the confidence level, being like being sure in your ability, really changes how you play on the court. And so there were guys who were maybe undersized, weren't as didn't have as much experience, but their confidence was a whole lot higher than other guys who had more experience, more skill even. And so they actually ended up making more of an impact just because they were confident in their ability. And so I would say confidence is a huge one. If you can learn that, it allows you to use those skills and that time that you put in to their full potential.
And did you like put in extra practice or extra hours just to become great?
A lot of early mornings, a lot of like time after practice, a lot of times in the driveway, playing with my brother, getting mad at each other. You know, you did this, you did that. But ultimately, you know, both of us got really good and both of us love it. And I got to play with them on our varsity team last year, and so that was such a blessing. So yeah, a lot of extra time put in. And it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm even finding now, and as I'm working in like the real world, it's those skills that I learned that I was like, people are always like, oh, basketball will teach you, sports will teach you all these skills. I was always kind of like, okay, like, are they really gonna like teach me that many skills, you know? But then like, as I'm like in these situations where someone needs to step into a leadership role or someone needs to do this, I really found, I was like, wait a minute, it feels like I'm on the basketball court. Like all these skills do translate. And so it's worth it putting time into something, you know? If you have like, it's always, if you have one thing, and even if it's not something like me, even if it's not something I'm going to end up pursuing in college, if you have one thing that you put a lot of effort into, it's gonna be worth it, because you're gonna learn stuff from it, and it's better to put 100% effort into one thing that maybe you're not gonna do for the rest of your life than to just do like everything, every little thing like 50-50, kind of half in, half out kind of deal. So definitely learning to put your all into something is totally worth it.
What are your spiritual gifts?
So my spiritual gifts are teaching, and then leadership as well is a really big one. And those two have really revealed themselves the most. But I definitely, so I've put a lot of time into those. But those are my two big ones for sure.
How did you get into teaching the Bible or loving it and yeah?
So I've always talked a lot. I've always been a talker. Like I love just talking about whatever. And so for a long time I used that, not necessarily, like it was a gift that I like enjoyed talking. I enjoyed talking in front of people, but I would often use it in like ways that just don't glorify God. And so I would use it to build myself up, break others down. And so for a long time I was really into politics. And so I wanted to be a politician in middle school. Like that's what I wanted to do. And so I would use it to really just like, we'd talk about whatever, and I'd be like, okay, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, here's why. And I would dominate like conversations and talking spaces. And so ultimately, you know, if you're doing that for long enough, you're gonna hit someone who like is gonna punch you in the mouth a little bit. And so I just found that it was like, you know, wanting to be right all the time wasn't all it's cracked up to be. And so the reality is, as you know, in middle school you think that like you're all that, and then you hit high school and you're a freshman again, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know, I'm not. And so that kind of transitioned as I moved back to the US and started going to Monday Night Men. That kind of really transitioned to using that to share the gospel, and using that as like my new passion. Wasn't being right, it wasn't politics, it wasn't like dominating, it wasn't like asserting like verbal dominance over someone. My new passion, and I wasn't just mean to everybody, you know, but my new passion was now like Jesus. And it was like I loved who I was at Monday Night Men. I loved and I've always had a relationship with Jesus, but this was just a whole deepening with other men around me, and I loved that. And so this was a new opportunity to use this gift of talking to share God's light, and it really transformed me and my friends. And so now, instead of talking about myself and talking myself up and, you know, trying to tell other people how they're wrong and I'm right, I'm able to use it to glorify God. And so became really close friends with my brother Cade, who I helped lead Monday Night Ministries with. And it just kind of felt like God really said like, hey, like you guys don't have these gifts for like no reason. And so he plays, he's super gifted musically. And so we'll go down, we'll do a conference like we did down in Nicaragua. And I like to talk, and so I'll talk, and then he's just a phenomenal musician who can just pick anything up. And so he'll go down and he'll play music, he'll do worship, and then I'll do a little talk. And so it just fits so perfectly, and I really felt God saying like, hey, this isn't for no reason. Like I gave each of you these gifts so that you can like complement each other and go out and do my work. And so it's been something that I've been able to like give back up, and God's seriously blessed that. So it's been cool. I'm grateful God has chosen to, let me be a part of that and let me use my gifts for that, because it's been a blessing.
Do you have any favorite, like, well-known preachers that you listen to?
I already mentioned Cliff Nettle. I'm a huge fan of him. I got put on by a family friend to Dr. Michael Heiser. He's a biblical scholar who focuses on a lot of the spiritual realm. And so he does like different series on angels and demons, and his knowledge of like Second Temple period, like Judaism, is like crazy. And so his Old Testament, going through the Old Testament with him is like, it's just mind blowing, because it's like all this stuff that you don't learn in Sunday school. He has like a lot of cultural context for it, and a lot of like extra biblical sources. And so corroborating with other sources outside of the Bible is just awesome. And so you learn a lot of stuff. And so that's when I've just been like eating up all his documentaries and his Old Testament stuff. And he looks at like the Old Testament through a spiritual lens. And so he talks about just like the Tower of Babel from a spiritual lens, and how that was brought back together at the Pentecost. And so it was like, it's awesome. So anybody who can listen to Dr. Michael Heiser, I would highly suggest his different series on angels and demons and the Old Testament and all that. So the Naked Bible podcast is his podcast. And so I love listening to it.
And I'm sure you take some of those nuggets and then teach it to others, right?
Yeah, well, I was watching his documentaries, and at the time I'd been invited to speak at our school's Spiritual Emphasis Day thing. They chose a few students and teachers and other people to come in and do sessions to speak on. And so he kind of shifted my session a little bit. And so it was cool. I got to, like, stuff that I was learning from him, I got to throw into my session. So it was cool.
Who do you teach?
Anyone who will listen. Most of like my opportunity to kind of, I guess teach, I don't know, it feels just like sharing with people is at like Monday Night Men conferences and stuff. And so we'll put on conferences or worship nights. And that's really the opportunity I get to have to use my gift in that way, other than Bible study nights. And so that's one of my favorite things to do. But ultimately, like it feels like sharing, we're all teachers. We're all like, once you've been taught something and once you've tasted and seen, like you can't hold that to yourself. And so it feels like I'm just like able to just share like what I've like experienced, what I know to be true. And that's a blessing. And so it's been those are definitely like the times are like Monday Night Ministry, worship nights and Monday Night Ministry conferences that we do. Whether that's in other countries or here locally.
How do you grow as a leader?
Definitely growing as a leader comes with saying yes is a big one. Saying yes to Jesus. As opportunities arise, like you just say yes and do them. As like the opportunity to do a worship night here at this place, you just say yes and you do it. The opportunity to do this, you just say yes and you do it, And so that gives you a lot of experience. And then the next big one in growing as a leader is having people around me to tell me when I'm wrong. That's like probably the biggest one in growing as a leader, is like from our kind of Monday Night Ministries leadership team with me and Cade. Like I know Cade will like come alongside me and in the proper way will correct me. Hey, I don't appreciate the way you said this, or I really don't feel like that's the right way to go about it. That's one of the biggest things as growing in leadership, is having people around you who will call you out a little bit. And it's a refining thing, and at first you're like, hey, like maybe it hurts your pride a little bit, but if you can set that aside and set your ego aside as a leader, you're going to grow so much quicker as a leader if you're able to put yourself aside and allow other people to speak into you. And so that's the biggest thing, is having people around me who are able to speak into me and say like, hey, slow down, like listen to the people around you, maybe don't say that, has been the biggest thing for me, for sure.
How did you discover spiritual gifts?
So for me, it was definitely just like, as I've grown and been like put in a position I feel comfortable in. And so they've kind of just revealed themselves to me as like, hey, and through other people's, and then whether that's like through just situations arising or other people speaking into my life, they've definitely manifested themselves to me in like different situations. But then also I've had people like call me out and say like, hey, like call me up and say like, hey, I really feel like you're gifted in this area, like would you like to come do this for me, or would you like to do this? And so definitely having wise older people in your life to speak into to speak to you and like say like, hey, this is where I see God is working in your life and God has gifted you is really important. And then also just watching and being in the Word and saying yes and seeing where God has you and seeing what position He has you playing is a really big part of it.
The next one is D in R.A.D, which is Dream Destiny, getting paid for what you were made for. Currently you work at Trader Joe's, but the plan to be full-time missionary with Monday Night Ministries, and have that be, you're getting paid for what you're made for, like support raising. Okay.
Yeah, so Monday Night Ministries has always been something that was just like something that we loved. We've always just done it, and it's been like something, not even just something that we loved, but something that we need as young Christian men. And so for a couple years that was like what it was to us. And then we had the opportunity to go to another country and do a conference and share it. And there we feel like, me and Cade really feel like it was revealed to us that like, hey, this is a plan, like this is an opportunity that God has for you. And so we kind of both were like, listen, like we don't know what we want to, like when we're thinking of all these other job opportunities in our lives, we feel like really confused about it. And we're like, I don't know, we're hesitant. But like what we do know is we love people. And when I think about doing ministry, especially with you, like I feel really comfortable. I feel really comfortable with that decision, and I feel like that is where God has us. So we both kind of felt like ministry was where God had us. And so from there, Monday Night Ministries really took off. The idea for it, and it just kind of has, just like from help with other people, it's just really grown.
Okay, and can you just explain a little bit to the viewers what Monday Night Ministries is, in case they don't know?
Yeah, so Monday Night Ministries is kind of our umbrella term for all of our little ministries that we have. And so we have a Bible study kind of section of Monday Night Ministries where we have it's called Monday Night Men. It was what started the whole thing. Monday Night Men and Monday Night Women. And so we are thankful to have a women's group now here in Modesto that just started recently, and they're doing great. And so thanks to Jesus for that. But the basically kind of how it's set up is it's just like guys, it's not super centralized. It's a bunch of guys getting together and a bunch of girls getting together, and they fellowship over a meal. They talk about the Word, and they like practical things applicable to their life. So like they talk about like a lot of big ones is obviously like like lust, gossip, just how to be a better Jesus follower, how to be a better disciple. And then we get into part 2, which is like the tool part of Monday Night Men, which is living in open confession with one another. We model it a lot after James 5:16. Confess just your sins to one another and pray for one another, so that you may be healed. And so our focus is authenticity and transparency. And so that's kind of what we do at the Bible study level. And then we have Monday Night Missions, which is our like outreach level. And so we've done conferences in Nicaragua, conferences here in Modesto, and we want to continue to keep growing. We have opportunities. Reached out for the Monday Night Women's Group doing a conference in Uganda actually this upcoming few weeks. I think today actually one of our girls from the Monday Night Women's Group is leaving to go to Uganda to do a Monday Night Women's conference. And so that's kind of our outreach portion. And then we have a lot of dreams for just like other Monday Night music. We have a lot of musicians, and so discipleship through music. And so all these things, but really the ultimate goal is building authentic communities for young men and women to nurture their identities as children of God. And so our big focus is our authenticity and transparency with one another. And it's really a revival of that genuine Christian living. It's not about doing the right things and like going to church on Sundays. It's about realizing your need for Jesus and talking about that with other believers and walking through it with other believers and community. So yeah, that's kind of what we stand for a little bit. Yeah, so right now we have Bible study groups in Modesto. We have one in Modesto, a Monday Night Women's in Modesto, and then a men's group in Phoenix as well, and a men's group down in Nicaragua. And so that's 4 groups that we have running right now. Each of them, meet every Monday except for the Nicaragua group meets on Thursdays, and it's been a blessing. It's been awesome. So the ultimate vision is to work alongside churches and youth groups to really just set a precedent of like authenticity. And so the idea is that like the world isn't to see Christians as like these like goody two shoes, like, oh, they're just perfect, you're trying to be like a perfect person. And ultimately, like being perfect is the goal. Ultimately, Jesus is the standard. But when we fail, because we're going to fail at that, being honest about it and being transparent about it. And so working alongside, and through that we find healing is a reality that's promised to us, that like confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you might be healed. And so finding healing through that is huge. And so working alongside churches and youth groups to kind of deepen our relationship and authenticity with one another and create a space where young men and women can come in and say like, hey, I struggle with this. I struggle with, whether it's drugs, alcohol, pornography, like all these big things, being able to come in, have people that are around them that are holding them accountable and that are able to pray for them and just send them off in their week well. And so that's ultimately the goal, is to grow and to work alongside these churches to transform lives and give opportunity for Jesus to come in and heal these dark areas, that back closet that we have that we don't like to open as Christians because it looks bad. To open it up, help give a space for people to open that up and for Jesus to come in and do his thing and provide healing and provide light in that dark space. So that's the goal. Well, the problem is we all have these dark closets, and then we like to pretend like we don't to the person next to us, and then so they're like, oh, I have this dark closet, but they don't act like they have this dark closet, and so I shouldn't have this dark closet, so I'm gonna pretend like I don't. And it's like, why don't we just all let's all open it up and let Jesus do his thing. And so that's ultimately our goal, is to be able to help people do that.
You and Cade, the other leader, founder, you're starting to support Raise?
Yeah.
So you, like I said earlier, so you guys can get paid for what you're made for and be full-time ministers or full-time missionaries. Mm-hmm. How's that going?
It's been going good. We just recently were able to get onto our church's 501c. And so we officially have a link and everything to receive donations now. And that's been a super huge blessing, because we've even been able to fundraise a little money through through another link as well, to fundraise money as Monday Night Men to provide food for the conference down there. And so like things like that to be able to fundraise for and to provide support for. And so now this just opens up our horizons, because we've basically done it all on like, okay, we're all broke, we don't have money, like let's just go out and live this out, And so now through being able to receive donations, we can spread that, and that like growing and mobilization of it is really starting to take form. And so that's been a blessing for sure. So the biggest thing that we fundraised for so far is our conference down in Nicaragua. And so we were able to fundraise. We went in front of our church elders, and we were able to put out like, here's the need, here's like how we'll be able to, Jesus can use us to fulfill it. He's like equipped us to be able to go down and share this. And then this is our need, this is our ask from you. And so we were able to get fully funded for that trip. The flights were paid for, the food was paid for, the stay was paid for, and that was such a blessing, because we no longer had to worry about the money, and we could just go down and we could just be present with these guys, and we could share with these guys the reality of our brokenness and the reality of how Jesus has saved us from that. And so it was a super beautiful time, and we want to thank our church, Rooted Church, for supplying the money for that and being able to pay for that. And so the goal is to be able to do that all over, and to be able to continue to share that with anyone who will listen. What
has helped you guys get to this point, like this far?
Definitely, like the what also kind of goes with the who a little bit. Our people around us have really been huge, and so that's mentors, whether it's our personal like life mentors that we both were ministered to by at school, or it was our parents really being really supportive. We both have awesome parents who really push us in this direction. And whether it's Chungman giving us all this information, or even like my coworkers who help run nonprofits, being like, hey, like you guys need help, here's a book, and like here's this. And so people around us have been like a huge important part for getting us to where we're at now. And so that's just been such a blessing to have wise people, wise counsel that we can go to that have gotten us to where we're at right now.
Is there any books or websites or internet, anything that you could think of specifically that might help other people?
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities online to really grow. Like, we live in an age where it's all out there, you just kind of got to go find it. And so there's a lot of websites online that will help you get started with at least becoming a nonprofit. And so we've been able to like use those and read through those. And then in terms of ministry, there's so many good examples of nonprofits and of ministries. And so going through them and like learning from them and reading about them is an awesome opportunity to really help shape your vision for what you want your ministry to look like. And so I would say those have been really big two things, other than people around us that have helped us, are just like seeing other ministries in action.
How could people learn more about you guys, support you guys?
Right now, the website's a work in progress. We have an Instagram, so Monday Night Ministries. Our Instagram has all of our links on it, and so it has like an email you can reach us at. I think it's mnmbiblestudies@gmail.com is our email, and that's all kind of on the Instagram. But yeah, our Instagram is our big one that we use for sharing information, whether that's what's going to be happening with groups, worship nights, all that, updates on mission trips. We all kind of do that on our Instagram, and then we have a link in our bio to donate, and with all of our other links. So yeah, the Instagram is kind of like the hub we use.
Is there anything in the upcoming months that you guys might need extra support with, that the viewers might want to support you guys in a few months, next year?
So definitely, we've been reached out with a few opportunities to be able to go out and do other conferences, whether that's here in the U.S. or even outside of the U.S. And so definitely, if we'll need funding for those, and those are all just kind of in the works right now, within the upcoming like year probably. But then another big one is we're moving to Phoenix. The group of us, there's like 4 of us guys that all go to Monday Night Men. We're all going to school together, and so it's going to be awesome. It's a great opportunity. But a lot of us, like we're working, we're trying to pay for it, and so definitely another big funding opportunity is just getting kind of set up as Monday Night Men in Phoenix, and being able to put on conferences. We want to be able to put on conferences there, worship nights there, and so there will always be kind of that need as well.
Your parents were missionaries?
Well, they were. We're out of the mission field now, but
okay.
Yeah.
Were they full-time missionaries though, or bivocational?
Yes, full-time missionaries down in Nicaragua. It was my home. I grew up there. Like, that's all I remember is my 13 years of my life were spent down there. So yeah.
What was their response to you wanting to get fully funded by support raising?
They've always just like, whatever steps we've taken have always been super supportive of Monday Night Ministries. And I mean, like, we all flew down to Nicaragua by ourselves, and so it was like, I was the oldest guy on the trip. There's 3 of us, and so it was like they've been super like trusting and like equipping us for that. And then they've also like done a good job of speaking to us like when it was we needed speaking into, and we were maybe making a rush decision. Or my dad has always been someone, like, when presented with an opportunity for Monday Night Ministries, I talked to, and he's always had good input for me. And so definitely they're all for it. My parents are awesome. They're super loving, and so they're excited. They love Monday Night Ministries. They're on the meal train that we have for a Bible study. My grandparents are, and like, they're all super supportive of what we do.
Do you know, in times of financial difficulties as missionaries, what they did to overcome those obstacles so they could continue being missionaries?
Yeah. So recently, I had to make my first payment for my school, and so I was just like, oh man, like, this is a lot of money, and it was just kind of overwhelming in the moment. I was like, shoot, like, this is a whole lot of money that I'm like settling in to pay each month. And I told my mom about it, and she was just like, that feeling right there was like 13 years of our life. Like, it was like, there were so many times when the numbers didn't add up, and financially it wasn't going well. But she was like, each time God provided, each and every time, and we were able to like continue to minister. And each and every time that there was something that came up, God provided for it, and God filled the gap, and He filled the cracks. And so that was really comforting, and I've just been able to pray about it and like find peace through that. So that's been cool.
What is the most inspiring story of Monday Night Ministry?
I've had a lot.
Okay.
Had a lot of
One that
inspiring
sticks
stories.
out above the rest.
I guess it's just a consistent story I'd like to share. My favorite thing about our Bible study that we lead is having new people come. I love having new people come. For a long time, Monday Night Men was kind of like more of like a closed off, like, I don't know, it's really intimate. And so there was a huge focus on like, okay, we got to be like really smart with who we invite. And then just like through stuff happening, like, and it became like a very much an open invite thing. And so we have new people coming all the time. And I love being in new people's groups when we're sharing, because like I said, that closet that people keep shut, it's such a weight when you get to open that to other people around you, even though it's scary, and you can like literally see on their face right before it's their turn to share, like it's obviously, it's like you're not forced to share any of this, but like when you're in an environment where everybody's vulnerable, that breeds vulnerability. So my favorite thing is being in a group with a new person, and you can literally see like on their face like their horror as it's like almost their turn. They're like nervous, but like everybody before them has just aired out all of their dirty laundry and said like, listen, like I need help with this, like struggling with right now. And then they're able to do that too for the first time, and the smile on their face is like my favorite part. And like
Priceless.
it just like the shift from like right before they share to after is like the most beautiful. It's so beautiful, just that like lifting of the weight, Jesus going in and like doing work, and you know, just helping air out that dirty laundry. And so that's probably my favorite. It just happens. It happens like every Monday as we get new people, and it's probably my favorite part. It's just like being able to see that, because I remember when that happened to me, and it was just like so beautiful. Especially being a part of that is life-giving. It is. And so it's like, it doesn't matter like how tired I am, like I enjoy it. I still love seeing
It like
those
wakes you
faces.
up. It's inspiring. Yeah. What about an inspiring story growing up as a missionary child in Nicaragua?
There's been like a whole lot of stuff, from like my brother needing brain surgery to like walking through like a whole like year of civil unrest in the country. God has provided a lot, and I guess one really cool opportunity was we had a tropical storm and 2 hurricanes come through on the other side of Nicaragua. And so a really cool opportunity for us was we were able to help raise support from churches. So we came alongside a lot of our missionary friends, and we all sent out like a request for like our churches, like, hey, we need support for this. So we were able to get out food and water. People were able to send money, and so we just had like these huge like truckfuls of food and water, and we were able to all kind of take a trip together to the other side of Nicaragua. So we drove like I don't know, Nicaragua's a small country, so we probably drove like 8-10 hours that day, and we got to the other side of the country. And so we were able to do that for these like little, it was super sad. It was like you get there and there's all these different kind of little villages and pockets of just like little villages throughout the different little islands off the coast, and on the coast there. And so you just like, the houses were like not super sturdy, and so a hurricane comes through and they're all wiped out. And so what the big needs were food and water. And so it was just an awesome opportunity to be able to go down and provide that. And then through a nonprofit actually that helps build wells, they were able to go back and build wells in these communities. And so they used that as an opportunity to kind of like scout out the area and then put wells with fresh water and like non-contaminated water from the hurricane in for these communities. And so that was a super awesome thing to see, just to see, you know, it was super sad, but to be able to go and like just see like be able to provide something that like is every day here in the United States, and is every day like, oh, like water comes out of your faucet, and like you just go to the grocery store and there's always food. That's not how it is for a lot of people in the world. So to be able to fulfill that need and go down was just an awesome opportunity. So that was cool.
And do you remember the nonprofit's name?
It was Hydrologica. It's called Hydrologica. Yeah, they build wells.
What is one piece of encouragement you want to leave the audience with?
Say yes is a huge thing. Opportunities arise, and saying yes is huge. Saying yes to Jesus. And so opportunities will arise for you to say yes. Jesus he wants us a part of his plan. Ultimately, like we've been saying this, ultimately, like God's plan, like it will happen, and it's a blessing that we're called to be a part of it. And so when you're called to be a part of something, say yes, go out, just do it 100%, and see where God takes you with that, and you'll be blessed by it.
Divine Kingdom Testimonial.
So Divine Kingdom has given us the opportunity to really make our dreams into a reality, and so really to make up all these visions and all these like hopes and dreams that we have for our ministry, to kind of lay them out and make them into a reality. And ultimately now we're like able to receive donations, and so because of Divine Kingdom and the way Chung Mon has been able to minister us, we've been able to reach that reach that position and reach where we are today with Monday Night Ministries. So that's been a blessing.